This is going to be a very interesting movie to talk about because between the two of us, we've seen all three endings of this film. And we went into this review not knowing there were three different endings. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
I'm Michelle.
This is our Post Shriek Out reaction, part of the 31 Days of Thorgiween, which we review a different horror film every single day. And this is our second theme week, and it is all dedicated to films in which the characters are trapped in a location and they cannot leave, just like all of us have been all year long. And we were talking about 1408, and this is a movie that I saw many years ago, really enjoyed it.
And I also saw this many years ago, and I also enjoyed it.
And I wanted to watch it again to get a refresher, just to remind myself of this film before we came in here and we talked about it. So I just got done watching it, and it is rare that a movie that you have already seen before can surprise you because I originally saw the theatrical release, but I just watched this on Amazon, and Amazon has got the director's cut. And there is apparently a third ending, and when I was saying, yeah, it's weird, I just watched this film and it ended like this, but I remember it ending like this, you looked at me like, I don't remember it ending like that. And then we looked up on Wikipedia and said, there are three endings to this film. And then
that was the one I saw.
We read the third ending, and he went, oh, that's the one I saw. And I was like, okay. This is going to be very odd to talk about. But this is a film, it is based on a Stephen King short story, and I will say there are indeed some Stephen King trappings in here. Mm-hmm. It's one of those films that if you did not know it was Stephen King, you would look at it and say, is this by Stephen King? Yeah, there comes a moment in here in which John Cusack's character just starts talking about how, oh yeah, all this religion stuff is bullshit, and you don't actually, what kind of a God would allow any of this to happen? And I was like, is this King? Because this feels like King. Yeah, King has never been quiet about his problems with religion and God, and he is more than happy to just cram that right in the middle of one of his stories. But aside from that, it doesn't have a lot of the other trappings of Stephen King stuff. That's really the only one. But what this is it stars John Cusack, and John Cusack is a writer, and he focuses on going around and staying at haunted locations, and he typically comes away saying, yeah, this stuff isn't real. He will still, talk about some of the finer points of the hotel, like, oh, well, they really hyped it up well, and, well, the food was good at this place, but no, there's nothing actually haunted in this place. And he doesn't believe in ghosts, he doesn't believe in any of that stuff. But he has been doing some research, and he finds this one location at a hotel called the Dolphin in New York, and it has a room, 1408, in which numerous people who have stayed there have committed suicide, and people refuse to stay there. There have been stories about being haunted, so he says, all right, this is the place I'm going. I'm going to stay in this hotel. That'll be the next story that I write about. And he arrives there, and this is the best setup I have ever seen for a haunted house story, because he arrives there and the people at the hotel look at him and go, oh yeah, we were expecting you. The manager would like to have a word with you. And the manager is played by Samuel Jackson, and the way that Samuel Jackson hypes this room up is amazing. Because he doesn't come in there and just go, let me tell you the story of room 1408. He goes, listen, I'm just going to upgrade you to a penthouse suite. It's far nicer than that room. You will enjoy it far more. I'm staying in 1408. Is there anything that I could, interest you in? I could get you tickets to a Knicks game, get you tickets to a Broadway show. He is not trying to hype up the room. He is trying to do everything in his power to not talk about the room and get John Cusack to do anything else aside from stay in this room. And that is what makes the room so creepy, because this movie opens up with him going to this little bed and breakfast where they say, oh yes, this maid back in the 1800s hung herself in here, and that room is haunted, and they're doing everything they can to sell it. And he's just like, just give me the room. Just give me the room. Just give me this. Just let me stay in this room. He goes to this hotel going, all right, just give me the room. Wouldn't you rather do literally anything else? And that's what makes it so good. That's what sets us up so well. And he keeps doing everything he can. He tries to bribe him into not going in there. He gives them this very fancy bottle of vodka or liquor of some kind. And He goes into all these details about how special this ball is to let him know how amazing this ball is.
Didn't he also break out records of people who?
Yep.
Yes.
That was the next thing that he did. That was the next.
This is the shit that has happened in the room. You do not want to experience
You've
this.
only seen the stuff. Yeah, okay. You know that 8 people committed suicide. Do you know how many people died of natural deaths in there? 56. And he goes, I didn't. What? Yeah, the newspapers don't talk about that. And he just brings out this big file and goes, yeah, that is the actual official record of everything that has ever happened in there. No one has ever seen it. I will give it to you, and you can publish your story about all these things. You can break this story to the world, become famous just talking about the stuff that is right here. Just don't go into that room. Oh my God. This is one of the best hype jobs I have ever seen for a haunted house. And you can honestly tell, Samuel L. Jackson's character does not this is not a show. He gives them this bottle of alcohol, and he goes, thank you, you know what, I think I will take this. Puts it in his bag, closes it up. Now give me the key. And he goes, God damn it! You can tell, he's I almost had you not going in there. And there's so many rules that are wrong. He's going up there going, the place must be in terrible shape. It must be incredibly musty. He goes, no. Once a month we still do a turn down service. I supervise it, and I have 2 maids do it. We treat it like it's a fumigation, like it's toxic waste. We have a very professional staff go in there, and so far we've only had one problem. One maid went in there, and then Johnny Cusack goes, and she died. No. She came out blind. She stabbed herself in the eyes with scissors. Yeah, just the way that happens. The moment that they get off the elevator, Samuel Jackson doesn't leave that elevator. He goes, this is as close as I get. This is as close as I get to that room. Outside of that one time of the month when we have to clean it, this is as close as I get right here at the elevator. Which there's a great line that I didn't think about until later, but everybody knows about how the 13th floor of a hotel is supposed to be cursed. So that's why hotels don't have the 13th floor. It goes 12, then 14. They consider it bad luck. There's a moment where they're riding up in the elevator, and he goes, if it's actually haunted, then why don't you actually close it down? And he says, well, I don't actually own the estate. A big corporation owns this hotel, and they like to pretend this room doesn't exist, but they don't want to possibly close off money that we would get for a room. It's kind of like how they pretend that the 13th floor doesn't exist. And it wasn't until the very end of this film that it slowly dawned on me, if there's no 13th floor, 1408, it's the 13th floor. Oh, that's pretty good. That is pretty good. I didn't even think about that, but that is really smart. And then after that, this entire film is just John Cusack stuck inside this room. And the room, it's almost like The Shining just condensed into one tiny room.
So it's even worse, honestly.
Yeah.
At least with
Which, when you think about Stephen King also wrote The Shining, and The Shining, they had that one room that you don't go in at all. It almost feels, in many ways, like this is sort of a spiritual successor to The Shining. It's well, if instead of focusing on the hotel, we just focus on that one room that you weren't allowed to go to.
Jack Nicholson opens the door and it's the room to 1408 or something.
There is a guy, he keeps seeing all these flashes of other people inside this room. There's one who, it's not like he looks like Jack Nicholson, but he looks like a Jack Nicholson character. He's wearing this beat-up old jacket that, if you've seen Jack Nicholson movies from, back in the 70s and 80s, yeah, that's kind of how his character's dressed. And I always wonder if that was supposed to be intentional at all. But this room just keeps messing with him. And the escalation of it is great. Because it starts off, and the first thing that's doing to mess with him is that, he goes in the bathroom, he uses the bathroom, then he comes back in, and the toilet paper is folded back up again, or the chocolate is on the pillow again, and he kind of freaks out at that, but he's thinking logically. He doesn't believe any of this. So you see him trying to break down everything that the audience would possibly try and break down. Okay, well, if they snuck in, they could have come in through this way, which means that right now they're out in the living room, and he runs out there, he's looking at everything. Yeah, this is one of those films where the reason why the haunted stuff is so effective isn't just because of how they hype it up, but it's also because our protagonist is going through everything that he can to possibly deconstruct it, which is something that most people would do in these kinds of situations. But as the film goes along, you start learning more about John Cusack's character, and you learn that he has a wife and they're separated, and he tries to make contact with her through, which I forgot when this film came out, and the internet exists at this time. In fact, wireless internet even exists at this time, and he's taking out his laptop and he's trying to get into the Wi-Fi so he can make a Skype call to his wife. And it's so odd to me because I've heard many people say that the invention of the internet and the invention of cell phones have made horror so much harder to pull off because cell phones, you can just call for help wherever you are. The internet, you can just look up information wherever you are. So it was interesting to see like, oh yeah, shoot, he's actually able to like call for help at one point here. But the hotel was able to use that to try and mess with them. And there's great stuff they do there where he's calling up his wife and he's asking for help, but he hasn't seen his wife in forever. And they had a child, and the child ended up dying. They don't say of what. But this is when it gets into Stephen King territory, because there's like a moment which John Cusack just goes, what kind of a god would allow something to happen like this? And I was like, okay, Steve, we get it.
Don't believe in ghosts, but believes in a god.
He believes in a god, and he's very mad at him. Stephen King will always try and show it, it just occurred to me, there's definitely one other Stephen King movie that we're going to watch for this week. It didn't occur to me until just now. Oh yeah, I had another I was going to watch a third Stephen King film, but now that I realize this is also Stephen King, I might not do that. We were also going to watch The Mist as part of this, because I really love The Mist. I think The Mist is an incredibly underrated horror film. But it is Stephen King. And there is a moment where a lady who is trapped in this grocery store as they're trying to survive all these monsters outside just turns into a cult leader. And it's like, oh, come on, Steve. Come on, Stephen King. Oh, just have some tact about this stuff, man. Try some subtlety when it comes to this message. But yeah, so Stephen King, I do think he is a great horror writer, but that's the one thing in which he's like, no, I will not be subtle about this in any way. But yeah, they had a child who ended up dying, and you find out John Cusack's character is kind of an asshole.
Yes.
He is an absolute asshole. Like, there's a moment when she's on this Skype call with his wife, and she goes, I haven't heard from you in years, and you just picked up and left, and you didn't even divorce me, so what, are we just separated? What is it? He's like, holy shit, this lady can't even, like, go out and date anyone now, because technically she's still married to her husband, who's, like, this guy has a career as, like, a famous novelist, and he's going around the country, and he's been making books for years about this stuff. And, like, she has to just, like, walk past, like, a bookstore and just see him, like, right there. And just like, God damn it, come on. Yeah, it is. The film really does, like, make no bones about what a complete asshole this guy is. So, it does get a little bit too far into asshole territory for me. Like, there are moments in which, even though it's like, okay, I understand bad things happen to you, and I understand why you are like this, but it is almost hard for me to root for you because you are such a piece of shit. But as the film goes on, like I said, the hotel just keeps messing with him, and just the escalation of it is great. Like, one of the freakiest moments in here is when he gets so desperate that he decides he's going to get out on the ledge, and he's going to try and walk over to the next hotel over, because he can't leave the room.
Like the next room over?
Yeah, the next room over. So he's going to, like, walk on the ledge of the 13th floor of this building, all the way over to the next hotel over to try and get in there. And he gets out there and he starts walking, and he's counted in his head how many steps he will have to take. And he gets to that point, and he's now counting down how many more steps he has to take. And then he sees, like, there's no window.
Yeah.
And then the camera zooms out.
And that's the only window you see.
And it's just nothing but pure, like, it is 13 floors of brick wall.
Yes.
And it's just nothing but, like, the only room that he can go to, the only room with a window, is the one he just came out of, and he has to now go back in there.
And then there's, like, another scene I remember where it's like he was looking at the sign for, like, the emergency exits.
It's after he came back in from there.
Yes, and it's just that one room, and
it's surrounded by darkness. It is like, you are now just in a hotel in the void.
Yes.
Just surrounded by nothing. This is all that exists. This is all that ever will exist. This room, it begins and ends here, and there is no escape from it. That is one of the freakiest images in this entire film. It is so well done. I don't want to go ahead and spoil too many other things, but this is one of those movies where even when you think he's safe, it's like, nah. Nah. And like the extent at which this hotel messes with him is... I've said this before, but one of my biggest fears is being in a situation that you can't escape from. This is one of the best movies for that. Because this is one of those movies where the extent to which it messes with our protagonist, it is insane. Like I said, there are moments in which he even thinks, "Oh, this is it. I've got it all figured out," and then the hotel will just make things so much infinitely worse on him. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about these 3 different endings.
We're not going to go into spoilers, but we are going to talk about the ends.
Yeah, like now's our spoiler talk, and it's gonna be one of our most interesting spoiler talks of all time because there's 3 spoiler talks. Because in the original one that I saw, the one thing that they all have in common is that he's gotten this bottle of alcohol, and there's been this countdown timer going down on the clock, and eventually he gets in contact with his wife, and she says that she's coming, and he's trying to tell her, no, don't come. And then like the room just takes control of his Skype call and starts going, yeah, no, come here. Yeah, great. That's all. I just want to see you right now, and I'm so sorry about everything. And then, like, the phone is telling him, like, she is 5 minutes away. And he looks at this countdown timer that's been going on the radio clock, and it says 5, 4 minutes, 59 seconds, 4 minutes, 58 seconds. It's just slowly counting down. And he has that moment of realizing, oh, shit, if she gets here, the room's going to open up, and she's going to be trapped in here with me as well. And, like, this is right after this heartbreaking moment where his daughter actually appears before him again, and he hugs her and says, I'm never going to let you, no, it's okay, I'm here with you, and I'm never going to let you go. And then all of a sudden she just turns to ash in his hands. By the way, for anybody who's been with us on Twitch, all month long we've been playing spooky games over on Twitch, and currently we're playing through Silent Hill. At least we are at the moment that I'm recording this. I don't know what we're going to be playing then. But we're playing through Silent Hill. I've never played that game before. And if they ever do decide to try and make another Silent Hill game, not Silent Hill game, that's not happening, another Silent Hill movie, John Cusack would be the perfect Harry Mason. He's a little bit old now. He's getting close to 60, but in Hollywood, 60-year-old men play 40-year-old men. So he could do it. He could absolutely play Harry Mason. Because essentially at the end of this film, when he's in this like burned out, like just remains rubble of this room, and like he's got his dead daughter there and he's crying and talking to her, it's like, this is Silent Hill. That's entirely what this is. This is just Silent Hill right now. But he now realizes, okay, so my wife will be here in a moment. She's going to be trapped in here as well. And the room like just tells him this hour is going to repeat over and over. All the things that you just experienced in the last hour, it's going to repeat again and again and again. There is no escape. So he lights the bottle of alcohol he had on fire, throws it against the wall, and just starts burning the place down. And in the version that I originally saw, it cuts to Samuel L. Jackson down in his office, and the fire alarms are going off, and and people are trying to leave the building. And comes Samuel L. Jackson and goes, well done, Mr. whatever your name was, Mr. Cusack. But then the firefighters end up saving him, and then he reconnects with his wife, and the two of them are listening to his tape recorder as he was in the stuff that he was recording there. Which that's my one like small complaint about John Cusack in here. Okay, he's a writer, so I understand him having the tape recorder. He's also a writer who writes about his stays in paranormal locations. He doesn't have a camera. It is very weird to me that he does not have a camera. Yeah, that's just very bizarre to me. But they're both listening to the tape together, and then all of a sudden they hear their daughter's voice in there from the conversation they had with his daughter. And that's the version that I remember. I'm watching this. He lights the house on fire, the apartment on fire, the hotel on fire. Sorry, the other place where you stay on fire. Sorry. He lights it on fire, and it doesn't get out to Samuel L. Jackson. And I kept waiting for it to cut to Samuel L. Jackson. I kept waiting for that, and then I kept waiting for the firefighters to show up. And the firefighters show up, but they don't go up to his room. and you just see the room burn down with him inside. And then it cuts to a funeral, and I was like, okay, who died? Because it wasn't John Cusack, because I remember him surviving. Who actually died? No, it was him. And the movie ends with Samuel L. Jackson going up to his wife and his agent, or his publicist, whoever it was, who were there at the funeral, and he goes, I have some of his remains. And he's like, I understand, but it's too tough for me to have to face that. He goes, I want you to know he didn't die in vain. No one can ever go in that room again. And they're just like, we don't want to hear any of this. And they leave. So he just gets back into his car with the box of John Cusack's remains, and he takes out the tape recorder, he starts playing it, and then all of a sudden he hears the daughter's voice on there. And he looks in the rearview mirror, and he sees John Cusack's burnt body in the backseat of his car. He freaks out for a moment, but then there's nothing there. So it's kind of just like, okay, is the ghost actually gone? Was it contained in that room?
Like when he burned down the room, did he like set all the ghosts free?
Yeah.
Like,
is John Cusack now the ghost and he's haunting him? Like, what's going on? And that's how this one ends. And I was like, that is so. Am I crazy? And that's why we had to look this up. And like I said, I described these endings to you, and you're like, I don't remember.
No, I don't. Then again, like
then we looked up, and there is a third ending,
yes.
And the third ending focuses on his agent or publicist. It focuses on Tony Shalhoub, and he gets the box of the stuff, and he gets the manuscript that he was writing while he was in the hotel, and he's looking at it, and then he plays the tape recorder, and he hears the daughter's voice on there, and then you go, oh yeah, that's the version I saw. Like, how the hell, like... Okay, I'm all for alternate endings, but typically there's that one ending that everybody agrees, okay, if you rent this movie, this is the version you're going to see. We played this in the theater, so we're going to play it on the DVD, we're going to play it at home, and if you want the alternate endings, it'll be special features on the DVD. I watched this on HBO years ago and saw the theatrical release version. I watched this just now on Amazon Prime and saw it with the alternate ending. And where did you see it?
That's actually a very funny story on its own. You see, this was like back when I was still in the military and I was like stationed in Washington State. And there was like, it was during Halloween, of course, so it's like, oh, hey, why don't we go on this haunted graveyard tour guide? It's like, you know, something, fuck it, I'm tired of like staying on base. But the thing is, like, my base is like a 2-hour ride from Seattle and everything. So it's like, okay, so like the tour guide, like she's all dressed up as a witch, she's trying to get in the spirit and all that bullshit. So he's like, okay, how about we watch a horror movie on our way over? So I was like, oh, hey, 1408. It just like pops the VCR, the VHS and the VCR, and we were just like watching it on our way over.
So there was a different version that I saw on HBO, saw on Amazon, and there was on the VHS. Which, why would the VHS not have the theatrical release version? That's so weird.
It is.
All this is
then
so
again,
weird.
like, I don't remember it much, so I might be remembering the ending wrong, but it's like, I don't feel like when you talk about the other endings to this movie, it's like, I don't feel like that's the way I saw it, or something like that, you know?
When I read that ending, when we were on Wikipedia, I read, okay, and the third ending is this. You went, oh yeah, that's what I saw. And it's like, so it definitely sparked something in you.
Yeah.
Because I read the original one, and you're like, no, that's not it. That's so weird to me. That, like, no one can agree on what the ending of this film should be. Which, in all fairness, we were looking this up, and they said that the reason why they record 3 endings is because the ending of Stephen King's short story was ambiguous about whether or not he survived. Mm-hmm. So there is no definitive ending to the short story. So it actually kind of works that there's no definitive ending to this film. It's actually kind of interesting.
You know, it'd be funny if, like, they just, like, released all the versions, but like you don't know which version you get.
It's like Clue.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, when Clue was originally released in theaters, for everybody who saw Clue when it was released on like home video or when it was released on TV, you know it ends with, okay, they reveal the murder, and then all of a sudden the title card goes up. That's one way of coming. Dun, 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 dun,
yeah,
dun,
that's like a meme on the internet,
yeah,
honestly.
I've used that joke many times in videos. Yeah, so that's how it was released on theaters. What people don't know is, when it was originally released in theaters, that's not how it ended. It had every single one of those endings that you saw at the end of Clue. Those were actual different endings that they played at different theaters across the country. So when you went in to watch this movie, you didn't know who was actually going to be the murderer. It was going to have a different ending every single time that you watched it. It would kind of be crazy if they did the same thing with 1408.
Just use that exact same clip as like, this is how it should have played out. Or
this
like,
is how it could have ended. Yeah, anything else you want to add about this?
No, I'm pretty much think.
Yeah, I still really enjoyed this, and I am pleased to say that the alternate ending was a treat. By this point, you should only be watching this if you actually have already seen the film. But if you have not seen the film yet, and you are looking for something kind of good and spooky, I think that this is a great ghost story. Like I said, John Cusack, a little too much of an asshole in here. Also, it does have the few Stephen King tropes in here, but it's still pretty darn good.
I didn't feel like it was as tropey as some of his other movies.
Oh, it's definitely not. Definitely not as tropey.
But like, if people are watching this and they haven't seen the movie yet, like, I'm honestly thinking like maybe they should just to find out which ending they end up getting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good question. Let us know in the comments down below which ending you ended up seeing. But yeah, so thank you guys very much for tuning in. Come back tomorrow for another horror movie review in which we focus on another scary movie set in one location. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and happy Halloween.
Bye.